Welcome back to It's Not Just a Tuesday, the podcast where we talk about work and life and the stories that connect us all. I am once again very happy to just have a great friend and colleague on, which is part of the reason I started this podcast, was just to get to talk to cool people every once in a while. Kendra Corman is here, and Kendra is a marketing guru, podcast guru, all things just making life better for small businesses. She also is the host of Imperfect Marketing, which if she wouldn't have had that podcast first, I probably would have needed to name mine that, because what is marketing if not just a mess of things that we make better, right? So welcome, Kendra. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
This is awesome. All right, so talk to us a little bit. Tell us who you are and how you got here. You've got a pretty cool career journey trajectory. Talk to us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, first off, I am a total nerd. I was one of those kids that loved school, could not wait for summer to be over so that I could go back to school because, again, I loved learning. I loved learning different things and school, like just flat out. So, I've got a lot of degrees that I have enjoyed. So, I got my undergraduate degree at Penn State in advertising and public relations, more the advertising than the public relations. And as you well know,
we'll talk about how you feel about PR later.
Yeah, we can tell everybody about how I feel about PR. Spoiler alert. Okay. Then I got my master's of accounting from OU, Oakland University, located here in Metro Detroit. And then I got my MBA from Michigan State. While I was getting my master's of accounting, and after I had graduated college, I went to work for Daimler Chrysler at the time. And then I worked for Chrysler, and I was the Jeep advertising manager. I was the SRT marketing manager. So I learned that big corporate marketing, managed 5 agencies, loved every second of it.
Oh, cool.
Took the buyout at the end of 2008 and found myself as the marketing director for a wholesale insurance company that's based here in Michigan and is international. It's huge.
I love that.
Yeah. And there was, so many foundations that I put into place there. That was amazing. Took really the marketing department from being a home office department to a marketing department that was driving strategy. And I loved it. Got my MBA. And after some thinking, went ahead and started my own company. And I've been doing that now for over 10 years. And I love it.
That's so cool. Okay, so H2H, what does this mean? I've never asked you that.
So H2H Consulting is my full service marketing company. And when I was coming up with names, someone's like, don't name it your name because then they'll think it's just temporary. And I was like, okay. And it would look like filler on a resume. I'm like, but I'm serious about this. They're like, yeah, but still don't name it your name. I'm like, okay. So I ended up naming it H2H Consulting because P2P wasn't available. Because originally I was going to do P2P, which was person to person. And it was actually already taken. And I couldn't take that name. So I ended up with H2H, which is human to human. Because one of the things I've learned in my career is I was the Jeep advertising manager. That's business to consumer, right? And then I went over to wholesale insurance where my target was other insurance agencies, business to business. And that there's a lot of similarities because we're all just talking to people.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's their job or a personal purchase. There's some different motivations and different pain points and things like that with the message, but you still have to remember you're talking to people. And so human to human is what I came up with.
That's really cool. I had a thought that it was heart to heart, so I was close, but I was like, I don't think Kendra would say heart to heart. That feels a little emotional. Like that feels a little too mushy for a marketing company. So especially from coming out of Jeep advertising and everything else. Oh, human to human. I love that. That's perfect. Because and that's so in line with what we do, right? And the reason that we always do really well working together is because it's the story, it's the connection, it's the intention that you put behind it. That is what's going to make marketing make or break, right? It's why it can be imperfect and still work if you connect with somebody on a real and human and authentic level. That's really cool. I love that. I had no idea.
And you connect more when it's a little imperfect,
Yes.
because people don't like perfection.
Right.
They want authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's key.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what you do with clients and what you really love being able to see as they are working on marketing. I mean, what I love about especially when we get to work together is, right. Oh, so the spoiler alert, Kendra is a guru at all things marketing strategy and also, email marketing, Facebook advertising, data point pieces, website, podcast, those really amazing, tangible, hard fact things that people need, right? And I come alongside in the organic spaces, right? It's the cultivation of how you got to your story. It's the cultivation of what the business is. It's the story behind the story. It's the news hook. It's the social media messaging and how we connect with people on social media, which is not hard and fast with a lot with quantifiable data, yes, but not a sure thing, right? I tell people almost every day, I'm not a coupon. Well, luckily, not almost every day anymore, because I think people understand by the time we talk that that this world is different, right? I'm not a coupon. I can assure a few things, right? I can assure you that by the end of our time together, you will always feel more confident about how you speak about your brand. I can assure you that you will know what a news angle is. And I can assure you that more people will engage with you on social media. It is up to you often how that hook happens after, right? But that's why what we do works so well together. So talk about that piece, that good quantifiable ROI coupon data piece,
Okay, so I love being a coupon. Now,
right?
I
Click
no,
here, and then we know you did it.
no, I do. I love what I do when I can make a difference. When I can see that ROI, that is what excites me.
Yeah.
That is what makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
When so I do VIP strategy sessions where I don't actually do the work, but I give people
Yeah.
that guidance and that information to go and enact on it.
Mhm.
I love it when they look at me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you mean I don't have to do cold calls because I wasn't going to do them anyway?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
Someone else is like, "I don't have to do social media." I was like, "No, you have to replace it with something else for
Right.
reach,
Gotta do something.
but you don't have to do anything."
Yeah.
There's ways to reach people in all different ways.
Yeah.
So I love making the difference that way. But I mean, when a client is having an event and their registrations aren't where they need to be, and we put together a campaign where right now, the next year we send out invitations with response cards and they bring in thousands of dollars
Right.
in revenue for people that say, "Sorry, I can't make it. Here's my check."
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Like creating those ways to get additional funds and
Right.
revenue for nonprofits,
Mhm.
additional revenue for my for-profit clients. I love it when they look at things and they're like, "Oh, I was out at an event and someone had mentioned the Thanksgiving recipe that we put in our email newsletter,
Yeah,
that how it was really cool and they tried it and it was great."
I love that.
And, just little things like that that gets people becoming a talkable brand
Mhm.
m- from a consistent communication standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the piece that we we will always be on the same page on, right? Consistent communications strategy. That's it. I don't, I will when I give workshops, I always say content is king, consistency is queen. And in my world, the queen is more important. Because the consistency, whatever you're going to do, and people will say, well, I think I should be on this platform, or I think I should do this. The same as, someone said I need to do cold outreach. Someone said I need to be on TikTok. Someone said whatever new podcast you listened to that said you had to do that. This is not the space you're going to hear that. I want to know what you have capacity for. I want to know what you actually will do. And then we'll make that great, right? If you only like one social media platform, then let's try it, right? But if you do email marketing, great. Let's make sure your story is really great so that you are engaging with people in that space, and let's grow that list, right? Let's look at that. But it really is that communication is everything, especially if we know for sure that human to human connection is everything. That, it's the thing that's going to drive at the end of the day, no matter what. So tell me, I love this. I love being able to kind of take that step back. Oh, I mean, I love talking about communications, but I love being able to take that step back and see where all those worlds collide. Because I think so many consultants like us get into a bucket of the thing that they say works the best. And there's no one bucket, right? I spoke on the last podcast to Laura Khalil, who um, she teaches cold call strategy. She teaches business development growth, and she's the coach I use, and it's amazing, right? But I've had to sit and be honest with her about, okay, what will I actually do? What won't I do? What other things do I need to do to supplement that? How will I communicate with new clients? How will I communicate with my target audience? What does that look like? And just being honest about it. So one of the questions that I've been asking everybody and having fun hearing those responses is, in work or life, what what are the couple of areas that you really wish people felt more confident in that place where they're trying to share their story?
Well, first, I wish that they'd be honest with themselves, because that's huge. The
Oh,
fact
that's
that you
good.
know what you're willing and not willing to do is key.
Hmm.
So I think more than comfortable, it's honest with yourself.
Hmm.
How much time do you really have to dedicate to whatever this is?
Right.
How much are you really willing to do?
Hmm.
If you don't like TikTok, or you just like scrolling through TikTok like I do, maybe you shouldn't be on it.
No. If you're never
As
going
a
to make a
professional,
video, then no, TikTok's not the place for you.
right? Go ahead, create your account, scroll through, get your CVS coupon deals like I do. But
Wait, there's
for the
CVS coupon deals on TikTok?
uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah,
on the wrong TikTok.
they've got these couponers, and they go through and they actually walk you step by step by step on how to do things
Okay.
and how to
Well,
get your deals.
this
So
is now
I
just
love
an
it.
ad for the TikTok coupon lady,
Yeah,
because that's
there we go,
amazing. I
coupon.
had no idea. Okay.
But you have to be realistic,
Yeah.
right? How much time do you really have to invest?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'm a marketing strategist, right? So I felt like I had to be on all platforms. I don't like all platforms. I don't
Mhm.
like most of the platforms. LinkedIn
Right.
is my favorite platform, and that's really where I engage with people. But I met a strategist when I was interviewing people for my podcast who's only on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Just because she's a marketing strategist and can talk about Facebook and
Yes.
Instagram, she only markets her LinkedIn
Yep.
because that's all she has capacity
I
for.
have several businesses and clients that I work with who are only on one platform.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-mm. Nope.
And I think being comfortable with that is important.
Mhm.
And then one thing that I am getting much better at myself that I think people really need to do, again, is be honest with yourself. Who are you?
Yeah.
I am a geek. I am going to do Hogwarts references, Star Trek references.
I
Like,
love
if you
it.
get my email newsletter, you're going to start seeing a lot more of
Yeah,
my geeky stuff
it's
show
good.
through.
Yeah.
That's who I am. I
Yes.
like watching The Mandalorian. I
Mhm.
would consider that a date night with my husband to watch Mandalorian.
Right?
And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Let that come through as to who you are.
Yes. Yes.
And I think the more authentic you are yourself,
Mhm.
the better off you are. I was talking to somebody and she's like, yeah, I've been doing training for 2 years, or for 20 years, not 2 years. It's a long time now. She's like, I spell things wrong because I forget how to spell them when I'm writing things on the whiteboard in front of a room. And she goes, I've decided that that's just me.
I
She
love that.
goes,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been doing it for 20 years.
Right.
She goes, hey guys, you know what the word is. I might spell it wrong when we're doing it at the
Mm.
thing. At the break, feel free to come up and fix my spelling.
Beautiful.
But she knows she's
That's
going to do it.
amazing.
She brings attention to it and she moves on.
Mhm. Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So don't be so quick to censor yourself.
Mhm.
You really want to be the authentic you.
Yeah. Well, and I get that question a lot, right? How do we cut through the noise? Everybody's on social media. Everybody's this. And it's the reason that I started saying storytelling is everything, right? In the ebook that we just published, the whole thing is about authentic branding, right? Because I can't think of a better thing to call it. But there's a whole piece dedicated to, we are all plumbers. The only thing different from me and the other plumber is that it's my story. It's my company. I'm the person who shows up with the plumber, with the plunger, right? That's the only difference. The only difference is the story that I have. And it's really why I'm loving taking some time to actually talk to people and say, okay, what got you here? Right? Because the difference for you when you show up as a marketing person is, I'm a little bit geeky and I love Hogwarts and I worked for these companies. So I bring this strategy with me. I have 3 degrees and I bring that with me. But I'm also going to just be honest with you and I want you to be honest with me, right? And that's the client that you need, is the one who wants to work with the person like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to be so honest. I used to consider it a default, right? Or something wrong in my business, that if you want to work with someone who's super corporate and who is all about graphs and data and reports, awesome. I know several PR teams that are amazing who are like that. That is not who I am. It's not how I work. It's not what I enjoy. It's not how I connect with people or how I do my job. I will get you results. You will have data. But I'm not going to spend my time or your money on putting together beautiful presentations of data so that you feel like I did great work. I want you to know I did great work and get a bunch of calls because it worked, right? And so people are like, well, do you have this? And I said, well, I could give you that. It'll take me an hour to do, or I could pitch to media for an hour. I'm honest about it now, but the people who work with me and got to me and went through that to say, yeah, that is the kind of person I want to work with, they really appreciate that. So now I get to work with people who actually appreciate the thing that I am.
I love that, because I was working on onboarding a new person at one of my clients, and I'm talking to them. They're like, so do we have agendas for our meeting? And I was like, yes, I keep track of everything in Asana. And then he's like, so are you going to send out an agenda in advance? I'm like, I can. Which of the 7 things that I'm working on for you guys do you not want me working? I'm a finite resource. He's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, as long as you're keeping track, then we're fine. And I was like, yep, we're good.
Yeah. I mean, I will, and I've always been big on because, right, I'm not a coupon, right? So either it works or it doesn't. That's the data. So on my end, if a social media campaign does well, if we've told your story well, if I've connected you to the right partners who are also sharing your story, then the data will be when we pull those dates and then we look at your website data and we see that spike in traffic, or when business is busier, or when the event sells out, right? All of those things that have the data, that's when I know it works really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I can show you, okay, yeah, here's my numbers, but tell me how those work with the numbers that actually we're trying to get to. Because it doesn't matter if I take the time on that. I want to know what happened after we had that session. Was your team feeling empowered about your internal communications? Are they talking more? They are? Okay, perfect, right? Do you feel like you can tell your story better? Then that's working, right? Because I think we forget that the what is that? Proof is in the pudding. We've all been in corporate America for so long, and graphs and data, it is pretty, it works. We're used to a really fancy presentation, right? And I think in advertising and marketing, it's that old Madman persona where you come in and you have to do a huge song and dance show to prove to people that you have the best ideas. But the idea really should just be great, regardless of that.
When I started out, I needed a flyer. I needed a website. I needed business cards. I felt like I needed an office and all these other things. They were all head trash.
Yeah.
Around what I thought I needed because that's what I was used to seeing. None of it None of it made a difference. I don't go into a meeting with a prospective client with a flyer. I don't.
They want to know who
My
you are.
website speaks for itself, but I
Mhm.
talk about what I do. And odds are, if they're calling me, they got my name from someone that I
Yeah.
did an excellent job for,
Yes.
that
Yes.
saw the results, that did that. And I know when you're starting out, you don't have that
For sure.
exactly, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, you still don't need pens and highlighters and pads of paper
Right.
and flyers. And I was talking to someone who was getting ready to start her business, and I was like, "Oh, her website looked amazing and she's still working on some things." And I'm like, "Okay, so what networking meetings have you gone to talk about your services?" "Well, I haven't gone yet because the flyer's not done." And I'm like, "How
That's that
much
perfection
money
piece.
have you spent so far?
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's zero coming in?
Right.
Let's talk about that."
Yeah. Just start
I'm
now.
like, "Here's
Start where
7
you're at.
places for you to go tomorrow."
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's uh when we want to do something, we want it to be great, right? That's perfection piece. We want to present ourselves really well. If your website's great and it's beautiful, but you haven't honed in on exactly what your messaging is and exactly who you are that cuts through the noise and makes you just not another plumber, right? That's the piece of it that you are forced to do if you are face to face with someone and they ask you, "What do you do?" You can't flyer your way out of that conversation.
Mm.
It's the reason that, I mean, all of my clients, both leadership and the entire team, needs to be able to do a 15-second and a 30-second on who they are, what their department is, what their organization does. Because I want everyone in your world to feel really confident in your story and their story. Because that's the real everyday life and breath of any company or any
Mhm.
business or it all comes down to the people who are saying the things.
A friend of mine called me and said that she needed a real estate agent. And so I introduced her to a friend of mine who's an excellent realtor. And um, then I find out a little bit later that she didn't move forward with that person because she forgot her cousin. Her mom reminded her. Her cousin is a realtor.
Okay. And she didn't think of it.
She didn't think of it because even nobody remembers what you do,
Yeah.
right? Nobody else can keep you top of mind like that.
Right.
So you really need to remember and to say that story and that message
Mhm.
over and over again, because
Yes.
at some point your cousin's going to need a new house or they're
Oh,
going to
that's
need to
so
sell their house,
good. Your
right?
cousin's gonna need a house and need a realtor, and they may not remember. Well, and that's why we're connected on several social media platforms, so you see this, and I say to people all the time, I'm okay with saying I'm pretty strategic about all of my social media platforms, even in a sporadic, comfortable way, right? But I've thought about the strategy like at the beginning of the year, and then I let things go, right? So that it happens naturally, but I get clients from all of the spaces that I'm at because, again, oh, Andrea does that. But I'm the one who, every time I show up, I have to remind people of who I am and what I do in whatever way. But I'm also really honest. Like, when you work with me, you're going to work with someone who loves being in her home office, who is a mom, who may take, there might be a 9-year-old standing behind the computer while we're having a meeting. It's fine. I'll tell you if you need to watch your language, right? Like, this is who I am. But that's also who you get when you work with me. And I love who you're going to get. So I think that you will too, right? And I think we forget that part of it. I have so many clients who will tell me what they want to do with a marketing strategy or an advertising. And I say, okay, but remember what you're talking about, no one even knows what you do yet, right? We can't promote the event without promoting you. Well, I feel like we're going back to the beginning. That's what I just heard this from a nonprofit client. So we just have to keep going back to the beginning. I said, I need you to assume every time you walk into a room, no one knows who you are or what you do. And
Because they
that's
don't.
it. Or they forgot. You're not we're so ingrained in our own worlds that we forget that everyone else is ingrained in their own worlds.
Mhm.
And so you got to remember, no one else is in your silo and doing what you do every day, all day long, which is why people need people like us to come overhead and say, you stay in the silo and I'll yell from the mountaintop. We're
Yep.
good. I got this. But it's hard to remember. No one is thinking about you, which is not a bad thing. So every time you come, hi, my name is, and this is who I am, and this is what I do, and this is why I love it. It's like a first date every day, a lovely first date.
The thing I think everybody has to remember, and going back to that question you asked about what do people need to do to feel more comfortable in telling their story, you're just not that important to people.
Oh my gosh.
Right? You're not that important. So if your hair is not perfect, which has taken me a while to get over, but if your hair is not perfect, they don't care.
Right. Nope.
If you don't like your voice, again, they don't care.
Show up anyway.
If you show up and you show up consistently,
yep,
you will get customers, clients, donors, volunteers, because they build a know, like, and trust factor with you. And if they can trust you,
yes,
and they like who you are, as they get to know you
that's it.
over podcasts, emails, videos, whatever it happens to be, that's what separates you, one plumber to another.
Right? Yeah, that's it. And it's the imperfect part of it. It's the authentic part of it, whatever we want to call it, right? That is the thing that sets us apart. But you're right. We do have to be really comfortable with that, because it does feel very vulnerable sometimes. I started this entire launch of podcasts by saying, oh my gosh, I almost didn't want to start doing this, because I instantly, and it's the reason it took me as long as it did to grow my business or start anything new, because you instantly think, you know what, no one wants that. I don't know. And if you're bringing that energy, then that's what other people think. Well, why would I work with them? They don't even confident in themselves, right?
Yep.
So it is being comfortable with saying, I'm good at this and people need this, or we do good work and people need this. All right. So I know we could talk about this all day long,
Yes.
because we love this world. And I actually talked with a couple of other people about doing some Q&A podcasts coming up here, where we might have a few of us together to answer questions and maybe do something live soon. So we've got some fun ideas brewing, because this topic, I think, is important. And I think so many small, mid-sized businesses, entrepreneurs, people who are just starting businesses, nonprofits, like, we all kind of come to that stop. And there are so many people saying marketing tactics, PR tactics, social media tactics, that's great. I keep telling people, I'm never going to give you a tactic, because it's going to change tomorrow. I want people to hear this. And I think the only way to cut through that noise is just to keep talking about it. So we will probably keep doing some more fun things where we just let people ask us questions and figure that out. But it's your turn to talk to me about your Tuesday.
Okay.
Because it's
I
still
love this.
not
And
just
it
a
is
Tuesday
actually a
part of the
Tuesday.
day. Yes.
It is actually a Tuesday that I'm going to pull off my calendar.
Okay, good.
All right. So
this is the part of the podcast where we talk about what is on your Tuesday, last week, next week, and you get to share with me that piece of your story that is so important, that whether either you remembered to talk about it or you didn't, but it's the thing that sets you apart. It's the few things that set you apart. So let's hear your Tuesday.
All right. So I started at 7 a.m. at a networking meeting.
Love it.
I'm the president of the group, and so that was fun, because I do like to be in charge of things. Then I did my workday startup ritual, which I love my rituals. I'm a huge fan of the Full Focus Planner, hashtag not sponsored, but it's very much about rituals and being consistent in what you do. So I checked all my social media pages and my email, and then my task list for the day to see what I would get done, prioritize the top 3 things that I was going to get done that day, made sure that they were still the top 3 things that I needed to get done that day. And went from there. Then I jumped into a meeting for a client that's doing a website overhaul. So I'm super excited. So we got a demo and a meeting with one of their potential vendors. Then I went live on LinkedIn with Brenda Meller for her podcast and live LinkedIn shows. Then I had a meeting with one of my newer nonprofits to talk to them about their priorities and what they
This is
need
a
me working on
Tuesday, man.
next.
Oh my
This is a
gosh.
Tuesday. Then I had an accountability meeting. And
What
then
time
had,
are we at on this Tuesday? I'm exhausted.
we're at 3.
Oh my goodness.
We're at 3.
Okay.
Then I had a meeting with, so I do a lot of meetings. Kendra, meeting calendar. No. So then I had a meeting with a woman who has a podcast and has a message to share. She was thinking about starting with my boot camp. And I'm like, no, you already launched. And she's like, well, how do I grow? I'm like, let's just set up a 45-minute meeting and talk about some ideas on how to grow. And so I talked to her for 45 minutes. Then I did a financial review meeting for the first quarter with one of my clients who I managed their marketing budget. Then I had a gala meeting with a nonprofit. And then I closed the day with an accountability meeting with another one of my accountability events. I was like, I got a good Tuesday to share.
You have a good Tuesday. Okay. So first, I would like to say, if you are listening to this and you feel like you are not as cool as Kendra because none of your Tuesdays sound that productive, intentional, or organized, it's true. We are not as cool as Kendra, but that's why we're all different. Because I am tired.
That's why I don't like PR.
I'm so tired just thinking about that Tuesday. Oh my gosh. But how amazing. So you're the second person who has talked to me about Brenda. And on the last podcast, Laura said, Brenda, get on the podcast. So second shout out. Well, Brenda will be here soon, I'm sure. Because she's amazing. And we all live in this world of getting to help people and loving that. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I follow you on social media. So I get to see, I mean, you obviously are wonderful at sharing your story and being authentic about that. Talk to me a little bit about the podcast boot camp and that 45-minute client spinoff from that.
Yeah. So one of the number one issues that small business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs that we have with marketing and with growing our business is being consistent, because it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a huge fan, humongous fan of using a podcast as your baseline content for everything, because it's authentic. You can hear me, you can see me, you can see hear my excitement about podcasts and my voice that doesn't come through in a blog post.
Yeah.
So I push podcasts. And then I love that because it feeds my emails. And then I love that because it also feeds all of my socials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of my messages from there. Yeah. And I'm able to just share so much, batch and streamline all of that in a way that I have what I call baseline content, so that I'm not worried about taking a picture at the networking meeting I went to this morning, right? Yep. I'll comment on somebody else's post for that. So it's all really good information and helpful stuff, but it all has to work together.
Yeah.
So I do a podcast boot camp for people that want to start, that don't know exactly what to start.
Awesome.
So if you're starting a podcast and you think you're going to launch it tomorrow, it's not. It takes a minimum of 2 weeks to get listed in the directories. It takes time to do that. You should start with 4 episodes because people want to binge listen, to understand whether or not they're going to subscribe to your show. There's so many little things behind the scenes that we just don't think of. Yeah. They're not hard.
Right.
They're just how you manage that communication channel.
Yep.
And so I love teaching people all of those basics. So I do a boot camp a couple times a year. My next one will be in January 2025. Okay. And I just love that. So someone reached out and said, hey, it's a boot camp for me. And I'm like, no, you've released plenty of episodes. My basics aren't going to cover it. And so I helped her understand what she needs to do to grow her podcast. Cool. And we had a conversation and I'm like, so what do you want the podcast to do? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, start there.
Yeah. Strategy.
So we do need to start at the basics, right? We did need to establish a strategy as to what she's looking to do, because, she's looking to build an audience. She wants to get her message out. She's not looking to sell anything. Okay. She just knows that people have stories to share and wants to give them a voice too. Cool. And so I was able to talk to her about what that is and what that looks like.
Okay.
For her, we talked about it in 45 minutes. And then I sent her on her way with some action items for her to think through.
That's so
Saw
cool.
her this morning,
Okay.
which is a couple days later. And she was like, hey, by the way, thanks again for all your time. She goes, I'm working on the stuff that you gave me to think through.
So cool. That's awesome. And that's the kind of piece, the reason I honed in on that is because, shameless plug, Kendra is doing this podcast for me, because I understand consistency and I understand that if you heard Kendra's Tuesday and how organized that is, that's not my nature. And I love who I am and I love what I do. And so we really work to practice what we preach, right? Hire a consultant who does what they do really well so that you can do what you do really well. I want to share stories. I do not want to produce podcasts. So Kendra is producing this podcast. So if you like it, you should call her. If you have some things to talk about, if you want to grow your business like I'm growing mine through this, right? Perfect. Do that. But it's also that piece of like I know kind of that you do the boot camp, but not all the time, right? But I didn't know that if somebody wanted an hour with you, that they could pay for that hour with you and enjoy that time. And so it's one of those pieces like the Tuesday, right? That was just a meeting on your Tuesday. And sharing that and letting people know I had a great meeting today with this person if they're okay with it, talking about this thing. I love being able to do that. It's those moments in our day that we forget are also a part of what sets us apart, right? It was a while. I mean, we'd known each other for a long time before I realized that you did podcasting because there's so many other things that we do. We forget about the little things. Oh yeah, I also do this thing, right? We forget to market ourselves because we're also in our own silos. But I think it's what's so important about that being strategic about looking at your calendar. What do I actually do?
And that's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things about you. And, not to be like Andrea's fangirl, but I love the fact that you always have that ability to step back and look at things and then hone in on the one thing that's going to make a difference. I mean, that is a skill. That is a skill. That is how you're able to pitch. We said at the beginning talk a little bit about why I don't like PR.
Oh yeah.
So
We might have to make
because
this two. This might have to be episode 1 and 2. We'll see if we
yeah.
think people are bored.
Well, I will let people know the reason I don't like PR is because one, it upsets my calendar.
Mhm.
Like I can't just react and cancel all of my meetings.
That
I
is
don't
the
want
thing.
to.
Yep.
That's not what I want to do.
Yep.
I don't like to pitch and to individual journalists. I don't have the time to build the individual relationships with them. I like building my relationships with my clients,
Mhm.
helping them build relationships with their audience.
Right.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that other
Right.
stuff.
And that's why it's so important, like we said, to let people do the thing they do. I will say, speaking of the calendar, right? I am tired today. Yesterday at 3:30, while in another session for the afternoon, I got a text from a producer saying, I've got a segment opening at 8:30 tomorrow morning. If you've got somebody who wants to fill it, do you want to fill it with that thing you sent me last week? And I was like, yep. Texted the client, are you available tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.? Yep. Okay. So I spent from 3:30 until 7 prepping talking points, getting B-roll, everything, right? Sent it to the media. I moved my morning calendar around. I love that I have a team now because they can step in a little bit, but I moved my morning calendar around to be at the news with a new client. And at 10:40, got another text from the producer saying, we have something breaking in the morning. So sorry. We got to reschedule it for next week. So it is a whirlwind world. And it's not for everyone. There are moments where I'm like, why am I doing this? Because, oh my gosh. And then I have to tell my client that all that work we just did in those nerves and that excitement that just got built up is gone. And I'm lucky that people do trust me because I've been really honest with them leading up to that point. Here's what I can control. Here's what I can't. I'll be honest with people about that. And I'm going to work really hard. People can tell, right? I'm going to do that part of it. because it's messy and it's the news and it's media, but it's one of the places people get information. And we know that because it's true, right? We know, but the news isn't just the news anymore. We are pitching to Instagram influencers all the time, right? And that's a little less hectic or schedule in infringing. And so there's all those different things, but I love the balance, right? We're both doing such similar things, but in the spot that in the plumber area that we actually are, right? We both have plungers, but we use them differently. And I love that.
Very much so, because again, it's very different. Like, people will say, do you do PR? And I'm, no,
She calls me. She says,
I
no,
do.
Andrea will do that thing because I don't know what the headline should be. And I can't guarantee someone's going to pick it up. That's fluff news. This is, whatever. What does that look like? I don't know. We can't make a producer care about this. Andrea
They're
might
like,
be able to.
they're like, well, we can write a press release on it. I'm like, I don't do press
And
releases.
do
I
what?
do marketing releases, and I'll post it on your blog.
Yes, which is also
The
really
end.
important, right? Content. We
Mhm.
want content. That's one, we both are going to write the content. We're going to put it different places. It's still really important. I love that.
Mhm.
Well, I love that we got to spend some time together sharing what we are both so passionate about. And again, reminder, no one's Tuesday has to be as amazing as Kendra's was. Please
I was
still,
all excited. I had
it
all
was
these
so,
things of, like,
oh my,
last Tuesday.
it was an amazing Tuesday. But I do love hearing that because again, you're in this world and there are still probably parts of that Tuesday that you were like, oh yeah, that's an actionable thing I should be talking about, that I just do it. Right.
Mhm.
And there are, I think still it's that step back. And it's the reason that I tell my clients, I'm just going to ask you what's on your calendar. We don't have to overthink it. We have to just know what's real. You can't
Mhm.
make up your calendar, right? It's literally what you did. There's no fluff around that. I love that.
Nope.
Thank you so much. Kendra will be editing and putting this podcast together for me. And when it launches, we will have a beautiful segment of clips and social media posts and all of that fun stuff to go with it, because that is how great podcasts are. Thank you for that. And thank you for spending some time with me.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is it for today's It's Not Just a Tuesday. We will see you on another Tuesday.